Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're listening to the Ask Brien Radio Show, AskBrien.com. That's our website. And we have our co-host, Alex Grossman. Alex, are you there? Well, you're at 1220 AM and 98.1 FM. Is everybody there? Oh, I don't know. We'll have to figure out where they are. Eventually, we'll get them back. Are you there?
Mr. Brien Johnson, this is Alex Grossman. I am here.
Are you there? Did you hear your introduction?
No, we didn't.
Well,
hopefully we're back.
Well, now that you're back, I'll have to do it the next time because I know that it's going to take me 30 seconds to repeat your name, and I don't think everyone's going to hear that. So, you're listening to the Ask Brien Radio Show, AskBrien, 1220 AM, 98.1 FM. So, a couple things for those of you who have never listened to the Ask Brien Radio Show. Ask Brien is part of the website, AskBrien.com. That site is a site where experts and business communities will answer questions. So, if you own a dry cleaner in North Dakota and somebody else is a dry cleaner in Florida, you're probably dealing with similar issues because you're both dry cleaners. So the business community can answer it. But specifically, you may have a specific question where you need expert advice. Well, we have many, many experts on the site, and experts can answer your questions for you. Experts can also give you videos, webinars, blogs, etc., to teach you and let you learn whatever specific area or subject you have a question about. Specific questions are obviously more on point, whereas the blog, the video, and the webinar is on a specific subject matter. So between the combination, you can figure out and learn something about anything, and the service is free. So I encourage everybody to use it. Ask Brien Radio. Each week we interview a startup or CEO or some expert in some field to try to help all of our listeners learn something new. That's our goal every day. My co-host is Alex Grossman, who has a fantastic background. And today's guest is Mr. Beau Henderson. Are you there?
The crowd goes wild.
So,
how's it going, guys?
Okay, great. For those listeners that have listened to our show, he was on our show once before, but he's such a great guest, we had to have him back, and we're very, very happy to have him back. Beau, what is your website again?
Yeah, website is RichLifeAdvisors.com.
And are you experiencing the rich life?
I'm working on it every day. That's my goal, is to figure out more and more what it is that lights me up and makes life meaningful to me. And then let's start doing things today to make sure I'm moving towards that, because I've seen too many people and I've got caught in a rut too many times that if we're not careful, we might just miss the point of it all.
Well, that's very, very important. For those who have never listened to this show before and have not heard your background, what is your background?
Well, by trade, I've been 16 years in Atlanta. I've run a retirement planning firm, and really a shift over the last 7 or 8 years, I've really shifted into what I consider a new model of retirement planning, and it's integrating both the financial and non-financial aspects of a successful retirement. And how I describe that is it's more of what people think of as getting the numbers and the spreadsheets right, because that is important. We got to know where we stand. We got to know how to measure. But it's also bringing in a retirement coaching aspect to think about the thing. Like we just talked about, getting clear on what you even want retirement to look like. What is your identity when you leave work? Well, how's that going to change your marriage or your relationship when you leave? We got to kind of package all those things. Those things have been left out, and it paints an unrealistic picture of retirement. My goal with all this, guys, is that 2 or 3 years down the road, I want to have people saying they have a retirement coach to be no different than or odd for me to say I have a personal trainer. I want it to be that normal and that commonplace.
And so here I'm going to ask those tough questions. What is your value added?
Well, that's really it, is that let's make sure we're not doing your friend at work's plan, what he thinks you should do, what maybe even your spouse thinks you should do. Let's get crystal clear on what that needs to look like, and let's really create a plan that works for you, and not just what I find broken in the financial services industry is it's product-driven. and a person will come up and say, hey, here's my product. Let me make it fit your situation. So the big value add in the integration of the both sides of the retirement puzzle is, hey, let's get the right strategy. Because if I've got the right strategy that breaks down, okay, what are the jobs I need to accomplish in retirement? And those usually break down into things like liquidity, income plan, growth plan, healthcare, things like that. And if you get the strategy and the ratios right for your situation specifically in your goals, or what I call your definition of a rich life, then that plan is going to be successful. So it's just shifting the focus. And what I found is rarely, almost never, when I ask somebody, do you have a retirement strategy that you understand and are confident in, rarely can anybody says yes.
Yes.
Yeah, well, of course you do, Mr. Brien Johnson, but those naive people like myself, we tend to think that we're really good as entrepreneurs and building our business plans, and so retirement should be just like another business plan. It's just that usually when we start a business, we know our products, we know our business, our service, and we know our customer base, otherwise we're not successful. But in this case, I'm not sure we know all that, so I'm up for this, and as Mr. Brien Johnson will say, hey, you're closer to retirement than I am, so therefore, you perk my ears up a little bit.
Well, as business owners, and I think we're all entrepreneurs to an extent here, and business owners, that what I see often happen, there's a little bit of a trap, is that we're so into our business, and that's what we invest into, that we miss the opportunity or miss the concept of, okay, let's use this business to build out some assets outside of this business so that one day I can walk away from this business, just in case things don't go according to plan.
So how do you answer this person? The person is, 45 to 50 years of age. He's worked his life. Now he's starting his new business, and he's got his 401k. He's taking out a loan on his 401k because he says, yes, I need it for retirement. I understand that. I get it. I'll repay it back. But my dream is to have XYZ business. XYZ business is going to be successful. So I'm going to pull my money out, take out a loan, and go ahead and start it there. And I'll be so successful that I won't have to worry about my retirement 401k. What do you say to that person? Besides,
that person,
and words that we don't have to get FCC license on. But
yeah. I can self-believe. Now, hopefully I catch this person when they're thinking about this, and oftentimes I do hear that. But the deal is there's other ways to finance a business, to get funding for a business. If we're going to take that 401k, what people kind of miss is that money was taxed when it went in. It comes out typically with a penalty if you're that young, and then even if you can pay back the loan, you'll have to pay it back with money that's been taxed again. So people don't realize you're kind of getting taxed twice if you are even able to get back to the same place. And a lot of people that take out loans with the best intentions never pay it back. So what happens, they retire, and then they have another charge off, so to speak, that they have to cover to take off their asset balance that is left in the 401k. So my advice to them is, let's step back. Let's see what options. It might be the easiest thing because you might be able to go online to your 401k portal and request a loan. But let's see what other options are available, because that can be one of the most costly things. I've seen people lose half of their 401k that they take out, and they don't really realize what it costs them to access funds that way.
So I'm going to ask a question, and you may or may not know the answer. You may have to look it up, and you may come back to us later on. But I want to know if you can find out the answer for this. How many people that borrow money on a 401k are actually able to pay it back?
Yeah, I know from just a experience standpoint, I would say a good guesstimate ballpark would be 70+% have the intention to pay it back but never do.
And that's because they run out of funds. They can't figure out a way to get it back. So then they're actually at a complete disadvantage down the road when they're retiring, because they've now lost 30%, and compounding, which is the best part of retirement, is lost.
Right. They've lost.
I've
taken out that. Yep.
Yeah, and I think you also run into this problem too. If you look at most people who are entrepreneurs, they've worked for a company. They've cut their teeth in the business. They understand the business. Maybe work for a large company, built 401k, but really didn't build it when they were at their highest earning. They built it early, and then they stopped because when they went in their own business, probably for many years or a few years, they don't really have 401k anymore unless their business got large. A small mom and pop obviously is probably not going to put that in place. And so they really don't have that huge nest egg at the end. So, you're hoping that you're going to either have an exit strategy for your business, either selling it or doing something, getting an investor to take it over, something like that, or you're left with, how do I go get that 401k back, or what do I do with it? And I probably, it's probably so small compared to what you really need for retirement. And most of us, I think, running a business kind of underestimate what we're going to need in retirement, right? We're great at building those business plans, but where's that retirement business plan?
That's it. One of the things I run across, just an example, for years when I left kind of a corporate world, I transitioned to a SEP IRA, and the SEP say if I'm bringing home a $200,000 salary, I could put 25% of that in the SEP. So it was almost like replacing my 401k. So there's tools, but again, a lot of times we're so busy and we're putting everything back into our business because that's kind of our baby and that's our focus. Sometimes we miss that out, but I find a lot of times I call it modeling when I'm working with clients. Sometimes we just need to step back and model. And instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to push, and it's going to be all right, is let's see, okay, with where we are to now, or where we are right now, what will it look like in 10 years and 15 years and 20 years doing what I'm doing right now? And if there's a gap between where I want to be and where I am, what kind of things can I do to start moving towards that? And a lot of times that modeling really helps people visually see, okay, I see a gap. I want $8,000 a month in retirement. I'm set up now for $5,000. There's a gap. What do I do to start replacing that? Because when we get there, it's really a cash flow game, right? Sometimes the asset doesn't matter. If you have enough pensions and rental income and other things, it's do we have enough cash flow coming in to cover what's going out? And I think sometimes people miss that too, is it's not always necessarily about how much you've accumulated. It's just, have we taken care of the cash flow problem?
Well, I have a big question here. This is Social Security Month, and I do not want to get into a political discussion. I don't care, liberal, Democrat, or conservative, Republican. What I want to understand is when you're doing this planning for somebody with the fact that potentially, may not ever happen, but potentially Social Security could go bankrupt or there could be problems down the road. There are forecasts. They may fix it. We don't know, but we have to go with what we have right now. So what are you advising people in Social Security Month for people of what they can count on?
Well, Social Security is one of the most neglected areas of planning and strategy out there, because for most Americans, it's over 2/3, it's over half of their retirement income. And you don't have financial advisors out there for the most part teaching that. And there's two reasons why. One, they don't know where to get education necessarily. And two, they don't do it because they don't bother to do it because there's not a way to straight line monetize it. So they're not paid to do it. But that's another problem with this Social Security literacy that I have, is if it's half of most people's income, is it important that we understand this and get it right? And that's a great question about it comes up every workshop. I do workshops around Atlanta every month, and every time one of the questions that comes up about, will Social Security be there?
Well, that's because I'm in the audience every month, but go ahead.
That's right. You just follow it. You follow me. I've got my hype man, right? You laugh at my jokes, get the crowd going. I love it. But no, what if we look at what's been proposed and what's happened, and you talk about politics, there is a little piece there that I want to get into. For us to take away something somebody started would be political suicide. So when we look at what's there, I think people 50 and up, the Social Security statement we get today we can plan on. People younger than that, it's going to be more and more of a situation of you're responsible for saving, putting more away, and doing your own. And the reason, how they address that, how are they going to keep it solvent for those people 50 and up, is you see they've already taken the full retirement age from 65 to 67. Earliest you can claim is 62. They may push that up. They continually raise the caps on how much somebody can earn and pay into Social Security. They're talking about taking a little more tax on income tax. So there's things they're adjusting to keep that. So I think for people in that window, say 50 plus, we can plan on it as it is on our statements from a modeling perspective. But beyond that, just know that there's probably a generation back and 2 generations back. That means earlier we need to start planning for ourselves, because the government may not be able to help us like they are now.
And so are you encouraging, I encourage people to put the maximum amount into retirement, Or do you say, it's okay to not put it, because sometimes people need that money. In other words, if you're putting your maximum away, you may not have money for childcare or some other thing that you need that you're going to have to give up because you're putting it into the retirement. And not only that, but I hate to say it, but some people can die at 40 or 50. So, they're putting money in and they're not getting advantage of it. Their heirs will, but not themselves.
Yeah, and there's always a balance of lifestyle and putting yourself in a good position or the position you want to be in. So yeah, there's usually a priority order. Is if you need the money to pay the bills, you got to pay your bills. You got to have a house. You got to have a house to live in and food to eat, for the most part. Then there's a priority order. Let's get the free money, which is match money at work if you have it available. Then I'm a big fan of putting anything above that in Roth 401ks, 403bs, or Roth IRAs. Let's start building tax-free buckets of money. And then if we fill those up, we can look at other places. But for most people, that's a real good way to start. And it's really what I don't want to do is just take extra income that you have available to put in your savings account. It'd be much better off working for you in a retirement account if you can afford to do it.
You're listening to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. You're listening to the Ask Brien Radio Show, and we have our guest, Beau Henderson, with my co-host, Alex Grossman. So, what percentage do you believe out of the person's paycheck should be going to retirement?
I think a goal. Yeah, well, the goal is if 10% is a good goal to shoot for. If you really want to make sure your lifestyle's where you want it to be, I like to say 10 to 20%. But I don't want to discourage that person that can do 1%, because I'd rather you do the 1% this year and maybe bump it up to 2% next year instead of wait till you can do 10%. But a good range is 10 to 20% if you really want to be where you want to be in retirement.
But you wouldn't get there until you had your main bills paid, right? Your health insurance, car insurance, mortgage payment, and the necessities have to be taken care of first.
Yeah, and that's another problem. If we don't have money to save, then we have an expense problem. We got to see what we can do there, or we have an income problem and see if there's options there. So right.
And I don't want you to be specific, but what do you think is the proper structure for retirement? So, for instance, what is your structure that you have for yourself without being specific?
Sure. Well, I think the way when we talk about strategy, it's getting really clear. First, we start getting really clear on what we need to accomplish. What are my expenses now, and what do I expect my expenses to be? What might drop off or what might be added when I want to actually stop working and shift into retirement and distribution. So the first thing I start looking at when we build an income plan, which is usually the first step we want to get right because it addresses that cash flow scenario, is what pieces of money do I have that are guaranteed pieces of money, so to speak. And by that I mean things like pension, what is that, Social Security, and what is the gap between that income need I have in retirement and those guaranteed pieces that I have in play. And oftentimes addressing that gap is the first thing I do to make sure that's okay. Once I have that addressed and I know that, hey, I have a very high certainty that we're going to be in good shape, that I can pay my bills, then that determines on what we do with the remainder. And it's almost like a foundational deal. I don't work on longer term, more aggressive, maybe quote unquote sexier things until the foundation's intact. So it's really building from the ground up.
We have less than a minute, but how do you forecast those numbers?
Well, really what we do, one of the hardest things is if I can get people to get a very honest, clear look at their expenses today, that gives us a really good benchmark to start looking for how to model in the future. Meaning if I have a $6,000 of expenses today, adjusted for inflation, unless we have something like a mortgage dropping off or something that we know significant being added, I'm just going to adjust for inflation, that $6,000 limit today. And then the key is that's the best information we have now, but yearly you want to continue to adjust. Has anything changed? Has anything been added? And it's a moving, living model that you would work with to make sure you're on track and things are still what you think they are.
Okay, so we're going to be right back in about a minute or two.
The best live theater can be found right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. The Canyon Theater Guild has been entertaining audiences for decades with top-quality musicals and plays. Located on Main Street in Old Town Newhall, CTG also offers workshops for the young actor in your family. For more information, call the box office at 799-2702 or go online to canyontheater.org.
The Oasis treatment at the Ivy Day Spa begins with a gentle exfoliation, then rinsed away in warm showers. You're painted with a soothing aloe vera, shea butter, and coconut oil body mask. Then travel through the warm Hydro Cape chambers. The relaxation chamber completes your Oasis body moisturizing treatment with a pH balancing mist and a warm cup of tea. Feel refreshed, hydrated, and relaxed. Pamper yourself. The Ivy Day Spa, Town Center Drive.
At Advanced Audiology, we know how important hearing is to you, your loved ones, your work success, your safety, and your ability to stay in the game. Most people won't admit hearing loss to themselves or others. We make it easy for you. Today's digital hearing aids come in a variety of styles, including invisible. All feature-rich, providing unparalleled hearing quality, wearing comfort, and automation that simplifies your life. Don't be fooled by our imitators. There's only one Advanced Audiology with the purple sign, next to AAA on Valencia Boulevard.
Having solar installed probably isn't what you think.
Emily Winchester, part of the Santa Clarita family at HomeLink Solar.
Our friendly team members work for a big solar company. We took our expertise and created a local company that makes sense for Santa Clarita.
HomeLink Solar can reduce your energy expenses now with a free consultation. Visit HomeLinkPros.com. Discover how you can save with solar without the big expense. HomeLink Solar, your home better, your life better.
We're your neighbors.
You already know Salt Creek Grill has the best food in our valley. Well, now you can have Salt Creek's gourmet meals catered to your event.
I'm Greg Amsler, owner of Salt Creek Grill. I'd like to introduce you to a new level of catering, featuring our catering director, Tamara Levine.
Salt Creek Grill creates memorable experiences, which leaves our clients and guests with a sense of awe and excitement. From menu development to picturesque presentation, you'll enjoy culinary excellence and creative catering.
Salt Creek Grill, a new level of catering.
Hometown, your hometown station.
Welcome back to the Ask Brien Radio Show with our co-host, Alex Grossman, and our special guest today, Mr. Beau Henderson. Are you there, guys?
We are here.
We're here.
Is that lively, Alex?
I like it.
That is extremely lively.
All right.
Very, very happy on this great day.
Well, life is happiness. You know, that's what I provide this show. I help out this show. I do anything I can. I have everyone that I can help out and encourage people, encourage business owners to be successful. That's what we're all about, helping others be successful. And today we've got a retirement person who actually has a lot more background than retirement. Retirement's a big area, but he has a lot of financial background, Mr. Beau Henderson. And Alex had a question for you regarding spouses.
Yeah, Beau, I wanted to ask you this question because I try to think of myself not as a selfish person, and I think a lot of our listeners don't as well. You know, being a business owner, having done that for a while, been married for a long time, I want to make sure, you know, I'm not, of course, purposely I would never do this, but mistakenly hurting my spouse with my retirement. So how do I ensure I'm not screwing my spouse out of money on this?
Yeah, Alex, that's one of the biggest mistakes I see. And it's funny, it's actually what got me interested in saying, hey, there's a gap in knowledge out there on this. And what happened was 7-8 years ago, a good friend and mentor of mine, a very successful businessman, we were sitting down over lunch, and he said, hey, Beau, I shafted my spouse. And I looked at him and said, I don't know if I want to hear this story. But then he proceeded to tell me what happened is at 66 years old, full retirement age, he called Social Security Administration and said, hey, I know I'm full retirement age. Should I go and take my benefit? They said, at full retirement age, you can make as much income as you want to without any kind of a threshold. So he said, you might as well. He was making multiple six figures. So he said, well, I'm going to go ahead and start my benefit and I can keep working. Where he came to the conclusion that he shafted his spouse, we did the math, And what he did was by not delaying until 70, being that he could easily afford to, he didn't need that money coming in. He was making plenty of money. By not delaying to 70, he cost his wife about $1,000 a month after he dies. And in their situation, age-wise and health-wise, she'll probably outlive him 10 to 15 years. So that's a six-figure difference in what his wife will be able to spend over the course of her lifetime by him just not knowing the rules. So that woke me up. I said, hey, if this very sharp guy isn't getting this right, a lot of people probably aren't getting this right, and there needs to be something done about it.
So
wow, that's really great. I mean, how do you know when the right retirement time is? I mean, is there a good formula for that? I mean, we look at it and go, well, 62, 65, 70. As an entrepreneur, you never want to stop working, but sometimes there's a right time and a wrong time, right?
Yeah, and I keep going back to, you keep hearing me talking about modeling, and for every situation it's different. If there's cash flow to retire at 55, let's retire at 55 if it works, and we can keep doing our business or whatever on the side or part-time work. But a lot of times it comes down to how does everything match up. So if one spouse is 4 years older than the other, we may do things a little different than if you're the same age as far as when you start and when you take one benefit versus the other. And one of the biggest case studies I had last year from actual clients was just knowing and running the numbers on do I deplete my 401k first and delay my Social Security or vice versa. When we ran that by doing A versus B, the couple ended up with $158,000 more dollars through retirement and saved $30,000 in taxes. So sometimes it's just knowing, but each situation. I think the biggest message we can say is that it's being very clear for your situation, and because that's one of the traps I run into too. Is people say, well, my buddy at work did this, or this is what is working well for them. And that might be great, and it might be the right thing, but it might not be the right thing for you and your situation, your family, and your goals. So it's really clarity on, to me, when's the right time to retire? It's when the numbers add up that you can retire, that you can afford to.
So I have I have a question. Not too many of our listeners will do this, but certain people still are getting pensions, right? And you're familiar with the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, which is nearly bankrupt.
Right.
And there are certain coal companies, certain mining companies, and even, every company can go bankrupt. I mean, I was listening, I think Z Gallery, a furniture store, I heard was filing bankruptcy. So the question is, you've got your money, you've got your pension, you didn't come out with an IRA or anything because you got your pension coming in, right? But now you're getting close to retirement age, or actually I had a client that was working for Kmart.
Right.
Now, you got the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, which may or may not have the funds to guarantee the pension. You've got somebody that's been saving, planning on their pension. They're now 60 years old, okay, and their corporation goes bankrupt. What are you going to tell them?
Yeah, some people, honestly, there's no nice way to say it, they get screwed. I had a truck driver for a big company last year who, 10 years into retirement, they just sent him a letter and said your benefit's going to be cut from $2,400 a month to $1,200. Now the problem is his expenses weren't. They didn't know that.
Right.
So one of the things I do more than maybe when I started 15, 16 years ago is I pay real close attention to if a company will offer a pension versus a lump sum. A lot of times they will offer a lump sum because they want to get that obligation off the books, so to speak. A lot of times we'll look at, okay, can we take your lump sum and recreate your pension that you own and control so that you're not at the mercy of the viability of that company? Now, sometimes if that's not an option, we're just working the best we can with the pieces we have in place.
Well, I would guesstimate that if you're getting a lump sum, the company is doing it so that they can save some money, so it's going to be harder to get that annuity or that same income that you had under a pension. It would be my guess.
It can be close because one of the reasons they want to get off the books, they're wanting to that what happens is when more than half the people live past average retirement age and they still got that on the books, that's where they really get hurt long term. So sometimes the lump sum, surprisingly, we can actually replace the dollar, and sometimes even better. It just really depends on the pension. So we just got to, again, let's run those numbers, and then that's a hard decision. what if I could take $100 less a month in benefit, but I own it and control it versus that company? And sometimes we talk about, the solvency of the company, the strength of the company, and sometimes that's just a decision you got to make.
Yeah, it's very tough. I heard you say something early in that conversation. You said something, and I wrote it down. You said part-time retirement. Now, is that what I think of as part-time retirement? Meaning I'm going to be a Walmart greeter? Is that what you're discussing? You're talking about there?
It's possible. So it could be a lot of things. So what I'm seeing more is the norm. Then there's this idea and this concept. I think it was because it was maybe what we saw our parents or grandparents do, is we work 40 years and then one day we retire and then we're retired. More and more what I'm seeing, for a couple of reasons, we can go through those two, is there's kind of a step-down retirement, or you might call it a part-time retirement, to where, again, we run the numbers. You don't need to be making $6,000 a month like you did at your job, but we look at it and say, okay, for the next 5 years, if you brought home $2,000 a month, that kind of bridges, smooths everything out, gets you through, covers you until Medicare kicks in for your health insurance. So a lot of times that's what I'll challenge people to do before they retire is, okay, is there any options at work to where maybe you can go from 5 days to 2 days a week? Is there anything that you might just love to do that we could generate an extra $1,500 a month? The number is determined by the cash flow situation. And I had a lady that loves, this was just last week, she loves gardening and working outside, and she needed just $500 a month to bridge what she needed to do. And she's working at a Pike nursery, loves it, loves interaction with people. It's fun for her. It smooths out her income scenario, and that's kind of a step-down retirement. So there's a lot of ways you can do it, but more and more I see, because, one, if we retire before 65, we've got a health insurance gap that can be very expensive anymore, and it can be a problem for people in their cash flow situation. But two, we're just living so much longer that the more years we cannot tap our assets, the more options and ability we can have to navigate that longer retirement.
Very good, Beau. So there's one more thing I wanted to hit you up on, because this is something, we live in Southern California, and there's no, home prices just seem to never really bottom out here. They just go up, and then they drop a little, and they go up again. And I must, I do watch a lot of TV, and unfortunately I hear probably 50 times a day about reverse mortgages. So what do you think about them as a retirement strategy? I mean, people here can have a $1, $2, $3 million home in Southern California. So how does that play out?
You guys are going to get tired of hearing me say it depends on the situation, right? But here's
right.
So
you sound like a lawyer now.
I know, exactly. Anytime compliance is involved in your business. But now, anytime, so with reverse mortgages, they become much more consumer-friendly than they used to be. Meaning some of them were very bad, and maybe some bad reputation they still have or you might hear of, because some of them were just not favorable to the consumer at all. Now, the fees involved in setting one up are still fairly high, but say you're in a situation to where I'm house rich. I got $3 million in equity in this house in California, but I'm kind of income poor. I'm kind of stretching every month. The biggest thing is it works really well whether you have a strategy to have life insurance pay it off so that you could still pass it, or if you don't care. I'll run into more and more people anymore. They say, hey, I'm not worried about leaving big assets or a house to my kids. I just want to make sure we can do it good and live a good life while we're here. So again, it depends. If it's a very important thing for you to pass the house along, then there's got to be some work and strategy done. But I've seen reverse mortgages create another, even when we talked about that flooring, that guaranteed income we can count on, I've seen that be a source. But usually it's the third or fourth backup source to build that income piece.
So what do you say?
Very good.
What do you say about people that have either spouses that have chronic illnesses or early set on dementia / Alzheimer's? Okay, those places can be very, very expensive. They may have $700,000 or $1 million, but when you start spending money for 5, 10, 15 years for that type of thing, you're going to run out. So how do you handle those situations?
Yeah, it's tough because it's like a lot of things. Once we know that's the situation, and if that's when we try to address it, we have a lot less options. right? Meaning, so what I tell people more than anything while they're younger and while they're young and healthy is look at what we use more than anything these days are just life insurance with living benefits. And what that does is, say I had $1 million life insurance policy. Most of us think of life insurance. I die, my beneficiary gets $1 million. But in this case, these are built so that if you have a long-term care event, you can actually use the $1 million to fund the event so you can survive and we're not blowing up your income plan and your other assets. So a big thing is while you're healthy and thinking about it, let's do some proactive things to get some leverage. Otherwise, it's very tough because if you go the route to where we have to go all the way down to spend down to be eligible for something like Medicaid, you basically got to lose all your assets, and that's not what most people would want to be in, kind of situation.
So is that a whole life policy you're referring to, or some type of different life insurance?
Yeah, that could be a term. It could be a term. It could be a permanent policy. It could be either, actually. It would just have to be a company that has what they would call chronic or long-term care type of benefits as a rider.
Well, that's interesting because, and then the other thing is, so let's say you're a business owner and you're trying to create a plan, a strategy where, okay, I'm making good money and I can save so much money, but I am filing a joint tax return with my spouse. Is there something I can do to increase the retirement amount that we can save, because I can save only so much, there's a max that I can save, and maybe my spouse can save some of that even though we're filing jointly? Is there something that can be done for that?
A lot of times what we'll do is in a lot of cases with the business owner, the spouse has some component of being involved, even if it's like my spouse actually helps run just the day of the live workshops I do. She's there at those workshops. So she's a part of my business enough that I can actually contribute to a retirement plan for her through my business, which is a great way to do it. There's other, we get outside of not being qualified for retirement plans, Roth, things like that. Then we go back to some of those, if we're looking at building tax-free buckets like Roth, and if the income's high, this is for a high income earner strategy, then we can actually go back to other life insurance strategies to where a spouse can average 5 or 6% growth and they'd be able to still pull out that money tax-free, similar to a Roth IRA, and assuming they're not eligible for something like a Roth on their own because of income.
That's very interesting, because there are some owners like that they're trying to maximize their dollars. Here's another question. What about divorce? So how does that work? So again, you're representing someone, and you've been representing them since they were 35. You've been helping them with their strategy. They're now 55. They've been maximizing out whatever they can, but now they're going through a divorce.
Right.
How would you handle that situation?
Divorce is it's a life transition. So one of the things we talk about wherever we start, whether it's retirement, a lot of times it's those life events that make people actually think about this stuff and want to do some planning. It's kind of funny how it takes sometimes something happening, but we start in the same place. Whereas as a unit or as a couple, this might have been the situation. We got to go back to, okay, as an individual, what's the reality of the situation now? What's the income coming in? What are the assets that you saved that are left? Did you have to split some of them? If they come out of your picture, that comes out of your model, right? So we just got to get a very clear picture of where we are now. We might have to adjust, whereas we might not have had to save as much when we're a couple. We might have to say, you know what, to get where you want to go, we got to bump that $500 a month saving up to $600 a month, $700 a month. So again, I think the key is just something like that happens, we got to reset and build that as an individual versus a couple.
Now, you had said earlier on that and so I want to touch on this because we're getting towards the end of our show. So forgetting about the financial aspect of it, and there is a huge component here, you also were mentioning non-financial issues regarding retirement. I want to step into those because we haven't discussed that at all. So give us an example.
Yeah, I'm out there as a proponent for what I call the new model of retirement planning, and it's not one-sided, meaning something we've talked about a lot of the things I've been talking about modeling, we talk about spreadsheets, and that's one component of it, but when we're dealing with humans in life, it doesn't always lay out like the spreadsheet, right? So we got to also address other things that happen. There's a part of retirement that people don't talk about. If you think about it, it looks like a magazine cover with a beautiful couple with their perfect white hair on the yacht with the hair blowing in the wind, and that's what you see, or on the golf course, whatever it might be. They don't talk about the increase in the rate of divorce, the depression, because people leaving work no longer have an identity because they don't know who they are anymore because who they were was what they did for 40 years. They don't talk about the health issues that come. So a lot of that is just like the 10 years out when I start really helping people position their financial components. We start having those same conversations about, okay, let's think about your identity in retirement. Let's talk about your relationship with your spouse and your other relationships at work. Something I've seen happen, I had a Delta pilot here in Atlanta. We were having a conversation. He said, Beau, when I would walk down the terminal there at Hartsfield Airport, it was the greatest feeling. People would kind of part out of the way out of respect for me and my uniform and my pilot outfit there. And he said the day I retired, that went away. And he was actually being medically treated for depression because he lost his identity. So there's those kind of things we need to start thinking about. So you're really almost a coach counselor in that role. So I think retirement coaching is going to be something, and you're starting to see more in the paper. You're starting to see more people talk and write about it as the baby boomer continue to go through, this demographic continues to go through. So I think in the next 2 to 3 years, having a retirement coach will be no bigger deal than you tell me you have a personal trainer that helps you with your health routine.
Yeah, Beau, I think there's a lot of truth. I've known a lot of people recently that have retired from careers where they've done exactly that same thing. They're used to being the president or the CEO. They're used to having everybody rely on them, people, giving them in confidence information every day. They hear life stories. They're in the office. They have a lot of people around them. Then all of a sudden, that all ends, and you're home with your spouse, and maybe you're on social media, maybe you're not. Your life is just upturned. So I think that also causes people to do radical things in spending that they don't plan on. The old joke is, you're going to go buy a man's going to go out and buy a Corvette because of the midlife crisis, right? These things happen. People want to go on more vacations, get away from it. So their whole plan can go out the window if they run into this thing they don't even realize is probably depression. So you got to think about that.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Lots of people can build websites, but there's one Santa Clarita company that specializes in designing websites for your business, Small Dog Creative. The Small Dog Creative team is made up of local designers who are hands-on. Their talented team of experts build premium websites and redefine branding. Small Dog Creative doesn't just build websites. They'll upgrade your business's online presence and turn your business into a powerful online brand. Small Dog Creative, Santa Clarita's most innovative web and design company. SmallDogCreative.com.
There is only one language spoken at Thai Dish, and it sounds something like this.
This is great.
Once people get a taste of Thai dishes, there's really no reason to do any more talking. Make it full of flavor, make it delicious, only at Thai Dishes. Enjoy the atmosphere, love the food. Thai Dishes on Valencia Boulevard for free delivery, 253-FOOD. That's 253 FOOD.
We all know sometimes people lose their way. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, the Way Out Recovery SCV may have the answers you've been waiting for. The Way Out is the premier intensive outpatient treatment center serving Santa Clarita. Asking for help is the first step. Call the Way Out today, 661-296-4444. That's 296-4444 for a private free assessment. The Way Out is an accredited, affordable outpatient program that accepts most insurance. Call us at 661-296-4444 or check us out online at thewayoutrrecoveryscv.com. Quit battling with yourself. Ask The Way Out for help today.
Kyle, guess what's coming up?
It's the KHTS Home and Garden Show at Emergency Expo.
April 27th and 28th at Central Park.
Free admission.
Over one weekend, over 20,000 homeowners, Santa Clarita homeowners, visit this every single year.
It's one of the biggest home shows in not just Southern California, but California.
My favorite is the marketplace.
It's local craft stuff. It's awesome.
A lot of activities for the kids. They've got the petting zoo, pony rides, But if you want to be a part of this, there is always room for your business.
That's true. And this is an opportunity that is like no other. You're going to get, like you just said, about 20,000 people over the weekend to come and check out your business. So there's still vendor opportunities available.
That's the only question I have. If a vendor is listening right now and they say to themselves, that's what I want to be a part of, now what?
You can call 298-1220, 298-1220, or go to scvhomeshow.com.
Southern California Edison wants to help you and your family stay safe around electricity. Whether you're on the job or in the yard, coming into contact with a power line can hurt you. Always keep yourself and any tools or objects at least 10 feet away from power lines. Never approach or touch any downed wire or any person or object in contact with it. Call 911. Go to on.sce.com/stay safe for more safety tips. Stay aware, stay safe.
If you have a business problem, if someone doesn't honor their agreement and you need an aggressive attorney with over 27 years experience, the law office of Peter Bronstein has helped partners resolve disputes, franchisees resolve disputes, and other business owners who have a challenge. Let the law office of Peter Bronstein take your stress away. Visit lacorporateattorney.com. Don't wait too long and lose your rights. Solve your business challenge problem today. Visit lacorporateattorney.com.
Your hometown station, KHTS.
Welcome to the Ask Brien Show. The following is paid programming and does not necessarily reflect the opinions of KHTS or its ownership.
Welcome back. You're listening to 98.1 FM, 1220 AM, the Ask Brien Radio Show, AskBrien.com. And I'm going to slow down on the long introductions because we only have 5 minutes left. And I know people are like, oh my God, that's all that's left? What more can I learn? I mean, I need to figure it out. Anyway, Beau, I have a question, and I want to know, what are the biggest mistakes people make in retirement planning?
Yeah, the retirement planning, one is it's really just doing what I call a very passive approach. We sit down and people will have 10, 20 financial pieces they've accumulated over the years. So they have retirement things, and they might be very good things, but they don't have a retirement strategy. I find that it's less than 5% actually have a strategy that, like we talked about earlier, they know and understand. So in understanding, there's a very big difference. Most of the information out there, most of the brokerages and the financial institutions, they're geared towards accumulating assets, and that's great while you're in the accumulating asset phase. But understand there is two other phases. There is a transition phase between accumulation and distribution, where you do all your planning and the decisions you make in that, whether it be Social Security, your investments, your drawdown strategy, that are crucial. Because once we're in that transition phase, we don't necessarily have the timeline anymore to recover from errors or mistakes or bad market corrections. And then there's a distribution phase. And we talked about this a little bit earlier. It's not necessarily how much money we have, it's how much money we actually get to use and spend and distribute over the course of our retirement. So understanding that, hey, you can't treat the distribution phase of retirement like you were kind of indoctrinated on how money and investments work during the accumulation phase, even though that's what you're going to find most information out there about. And then the other is really, I think the key is don't trust. Don't trust the government to take care of you. Don't trust financial advisors to take care of you. Knowledge truly is power. What I tell my clients, but in the course of working with me, I want you to be able to do this yourself. I hope you still choose to keep me on your team to help you navigate it, because it's not your thing necessarily. But I want you to have the literacy that you could do this yourself. And I actually kind of brag to my clients. I say, you know what? By the time we work together a while, I think you're probably better than 90% of the financial advisors out there. So it's really a knowledge is power. It's your responsibility to do the best you can, because it's your life and your money.
So I have a question. Not many people may be aware of this. I am. So you have $950,000 in your IRA, all right, and you have to take, and now it's year 3, and you want to buy that yacht. You want to buy that thing. I think a lot of people are unaware of the fact that the IRS does not allow you just to say, okay, you got $900,000, you're over 60 years of age, and now you can just take out that money. There's a distribution period based on your life expectancy, and you can only take out a certain sum. I don't know if people are aware of that. I'm sure you are aware of that. And so, therefore, I think that's a very big point, too, is that people, just because you have that in retirement, in your IRA, you can't just pull it out. Oh, I want $100,000 to go buy my nice car now because I'm 72 and I think I might pass away in 2 or 3 years. So can you address that?
Yeah. And it depends on the vehicle. There's certain vehicles, depending on if they're coming out in pay deals or if they're requirement of distributions, there's amounts you have to take out per year. There are some vehicles we could get to retirement with our 401 IRA where we could take the $950 out. But guess what we're going to do? We're going to lose half of it to taxes if we take it all out at once. So again, it's kind of that scenario of understanding, and it gets back to the knowledge is power, is if you're in an annuity, you really need to understand the rules of that annuity, because the only bad things I hear happen with annuities is when somebody using an annuity as a tool for the wrong job, right? Or if it's an IRA or a brokerage account, whatever that is. So again, I think you're right. It's just let's understand our plan, and that's a big question I have is, do you understand your retirement plan? And I think that's very important. And as much as I appreciate when somebody trusts me, I don't like to be trusted blindly, and too much of that goes on out there is because somebody has a title or a credential. We trust them with everything we have. So, no, really, if something bad happens, it's still my responsibility with my money to at least know enough to lead this relationship and lead my retirement.
Before we go, I want to, because we only got a little time, you wrote a book. I want to know the name of that book and where people can get that.
Sure. Because of the issue, we looked at some statistics, and over 70% of people in this country are getting less than they could possibly get or than they're entitled to from Social Security. And just firsthand from doing workshops every month, I found cases where people are leaving $40,000, $60,000, $158,000 on the table. One case study comes to mind. So I wrote a book called Customized Social Security, 15 Steps to Social Security Success, and we have it actually available for free for your listeners. It'll be free with a trial to 6 months of my newsletter, Strategic Retirement, and you can find that at socialsecuritywin.com. That's socialsecuritywin.com. And, because so many people, 70% plus, are not getting everything they can, I want to make sure they win with their Social Security and retirement. So socialsecuritywin.com.
All right, and we got to wrap it up, but that's socialsecuritywin.com. If anyone has a question, they can contact askbrien.com. We'll pass it along to Beau. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and you'll listen to the Ask Brien Radio Show. Thank you very much.